let's keep moving. And it's that team right there. It's the Canberra Raiders versus the Dolphins to come in on Saturday football. It's Super Saturday. It's coming at you from the Canberra capital. It's ACT. It's the boys who they're a bit down on their weather at the moment. As we discussed in the previous episode, we spoke about Jack Whiten leaving. He has signed a deal with the South Sydney Rabbitohs. It is a 4-year deal. He will leave at the end of this season, but we'll talk about that a little bit more after we go through the lineup. You've got the Canberra Raiders. You've got Sebastian Chris, Albert Hopewadi, Jared Croker, Matthew Tomoko, Jordan Rapana, Jack Whiten in the 6, Jamal Fogarty, Josh Papali, Zach Wolford, Joseph Tarpany, Hudson Young, Elliot Whitehead, Corey Horsburgh, Tom Starlin, Emre Gula, Pasami Saulo, Corey Herrera-Nira, James Schiller, Brad Schneider, Xavier Savage, Trey Mooney, Peter Holland. A side that has struggled, let's be honest, since they did make that grand final. They have struggled year in, year out. Let's rip the Band-Aid off first. Before we talk about this week, let's rip the Band-Aid off. Jack Whiten, he will be leaving at the end of the year. He has taken... reportedly, we don't know what it is, but significantly less. That could change. The NRL could get involved, but he has taken significantly less to go to, obviously, the South Sydney Rabbitohs. So let's talk about it from a Canberra Raiders perspective. Baxter, let's be honest. Is Jack Whiten worth $1.1 million? No. Let's be completely honest. Is he worth $1.1 million to the Raiders? I think that's a different story.
Yeah, okay. That's what I was going to say. I think he is worth $1 million plus because there's no other good halves out there that are like going to go onto the market anytime soon. All the good managers have realized that the salary cap is going to go up, so they made sure that everybody, all the good halves of good management have come off contract last year. So they're in their first year of their multi-million-dollar new deal, which will go up as soon as the salary cap will go up. And there's no one really out there to replace Jack Whiten at the moment. But is this a good thing I think this is a good thing that Jack Whiten has gone, because now you can use this money to keep other players in other positions. You can use this $4.4 million. You can use 250,000 as a top up for another player and start to they're in a bit of a rebuild. We talking about it all the time since that window of opportunity to go to a grand final win for the Raiders is closed. They're in a rebuild, so this is the time where you need to rebuild. And in a rebuild, you're not throwing money, big money, willy-nilly to one or two players. If I don't think the Penrith Panthers would be throwing money at Nathan Cleary, the amount of money at Nathan Cleary, if they weren't back-to-back premiers. I don't think he would receive that much. I think that he'd get a significant amount of coin in his pocket, but not the amount that he's getting if he didn't have those back-to-back premierships. But I think it's a good. I think it's a good thing for the Canberra Raiders that Jack is moving on. Now it allows them to rebuild. You got Jared Croker, who's it's 6 or 5 games away from hitting 300 club, and I think once he does that, that's retirement for him. Jordan Rapana, he's back, 32, 33. I think he will retire in the next end of this year or at the end of next year. Josh Papali, he's not that far away from him. So as these older aging players start to move on, you can start to bleed in some new players and start to, pay them with the money that you would have had to pay one person. And it's the only way up from here. And if you have to, go on.
I genuinely think they're in a lot of trouble. Not because they're losing Jack Whiten. Like we mentioned, $1.1 million to any other club is not worth that. To the Raiders, he definitely is. And no disrespect to the Raiders. Heck, they were in a grand final against my boys, the Roosters. But I just look at it as I don't think Jack Whiten, and I might cop egg on my face for this, I don't think Jack Whiten is the man in a squad. He can be one of the men in the squad, but he's not the star player. And in this Raiders side, he's forced to be the man, the star. You look at the rest of the squad, and yes, there's some names that you go, they're great players, but there's no name that you go, that's the X factor besides Jack Whiten in this squad. So the other thing we hear year in, year out when there's players off contract, Ricky Stewart, he's got that pull power. They go down there, they do the workout, they look at the town and they go, I'm not really interested in moving to Canberra. So I think that also hurts them. I think what Ricky's done in the past, going to England and signing players from England who are used to that weather, used to the small towns, I think that's great. And I think that's where they're going to have to look. But what it does do now is if you were willing to give Jack Whiten $1 million, 1.1 million, let's talk from 2025 because I just had a quick look at the players that are off contract. Let's look at a Jerome Luai, for example. He's going to look at this and go, if Jack Whiten was worth 1.1, I want 1.3 because I've won back-to-back premierships. And that's what's going to hurt Canberra now. This offer came out. They said how much they were going to give Jack Whiten. If I'm a player moving to Canberra now, I'm asking for some big fucking money because I know you have the salary cap to give that. So that could hurt him. But
do you reckon Canberra have a player Jerome Luai? Do you reckon?
I mean, I think they'll have a player. I think they'll have a player any halfback that's available, any 5'8" that's available. They're going to have a player.
Well, he is. I think he's the only one that's available.
No, 2024. He's got a contract still. He's got a contract to the end of 2024.
I think it's. Wasn't a player option? No,
just looked. He's got a $750,000 deal from 2024.
So 2020 at the end of 2024. So really, so you got to get through this season, get through next season in order to get him. That's not.
Well, I mean, you've got Jack White in this season, so we don't have to talk about this season right now. Obviously, it's going to be from the season after that. What are you going to do next year? Who are you going to play there?
Yeah, so really, you got to endure another season of no real big money in the half. So I think it's going to be it's doom and gloom in the next couple of years for the Raiders fans and the Raiders teams because they're going to have to they come out the other side and they put together a good squad and push top 8, consistently. I think there's you look back at it and go they made the right decision, but only time will tell. And as we flip over into their opponents this week, which is the Dolphins, you got the hammer at the fullback role, Jermaine Sarko, Robert Jennings in the wing position, Ewan Aiken, Brenko Lee in the centres, Cody Nicarina and Isaiah Katoa in the halves, Jesse Bromwich and Kenneth Bromwich, the Bromwich brothers, back in the front row position. Jeremy Marshall-King in the hooker position, Khalees Kafusi and Connolly Lemu in the second row, Tom Gilman in the lock position, Jared Wallace, Mark Nichols, Ray Stone, Hammer SASA and Kurt Donahue to round out the interchange bench in the HIA. Possa, I'm not even pronouncing your last name, but I'm just going to go Possa D, Edric Lee, Mason Talangi, and Anthony Milford to round out the extended bench now. Dolphins, as we've seen, Anthony Milford makes it into the extended bench. He might make his way onto the bench somehow if all reports work its magic. The Bromwich Brothers finally pair up again. It's good to see just before Magic Round they take on the Canberra Raiders, but not really a big change in this side, so to say. And I think this is one of the teams that haven't had much of a whole squad change. It's just been this player for a week or this player for 2 weeks, and they've really enjoyed the weather. But as we go into our tipping, I've gone Dolphins 1-12, and I think it's going to be a really, really close game. I think Canberra's going to come out and firing, but Dolphins got too much gunpowder walk away the losers here.
Well, before I even go into any of that, I just want to say, last week, obviously massive props to this side, massive props to Big Wayne, the equal highest comeback in the NRL. They were down 26-0, turned it around, won the game 28-26. Now, a few things didn't go their way in the first half. I thought there was a few itchy cores that could have gone towards them. They were able to bounce back. I don't know what he said to them at halftime, but mate, Uncle Wayne, if you can send us that speech, I want to play that every single week when I wake up in the morning. Because if you can do that to this side, 26-0 down against a Titans side that's been playing well, wowee, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. But like you said,
I just got a text message from Uncle Wayne. He just said his halftime speech was the Roosters are salary cap cheats and they've always got a sombrero. That's so he's just gonna have to play that from now on for every day. So that's
well, you know what? I'll play it every day because apparently we've seen in the NRL salary caps don't mean very much. I'll take the unders, so we'll take the unders. But obviously, like you said, Milford is in the reserves, but he is still battling that hamstring. So I think they might, like you said in the previous one, they might rest him. They might bring him back in for Magic Round because we know how much of an occasion that is in Brisbane. So we'll see how they go. But like Kota Nikorima, Katoa, they've been playing brilliant. They deserve to hold their spot. If they're fit, let them play. They came down from 26-0. They've earned their spot this week. But I'm going to go to Dolphins. Who are they playing again?
They're playing the Raiders, unfortunately, in Raiders.
I'm going to go to Dolphins. I'm going to go 1-12 purely because I think, honestly, for the rest of this season, Jack Whiten, the man he is going to be playing for the fans. He's going to go out there. He's going to try and leave on a great note. He's going to try and carry him to the semifinals. But I just think this game, it's in his head. I don't know what reception he's going to get when he walks out there on the weekend. So I don't think they'll boo him, but there could be a few G's coming around the stadium. But we'll see how that one goes. But I think the Dolphins, after last week, it's hard to tip against them. Yes, they're going down to the capital. Yes, it's a bit of a travel, but I think they've adapted well to travel so far this year, and I think they'll get the job down there. But Baxter, the only person I feel sorry for, and it's just come to my mind now, so we're going to flick back to the Raiders. We're not going to change the screen, but I've got a little light bulb moment popping up in the side of my head right here. The only thing that I think was keeping Ricky Stewart at the Raiders was Jack Whiten. Jack Whiten's gone now. Who needs a coach? Who needs a coach? The Dragons. Throw your fucking checkbook at Ricky Stewart. Get Ricky Stewart in there for a couple of years.
Look, if I was in Ricky's shoes, I wouldn't be touching it with a 10-foot pole, that club. And
why? You get sacked in 6 weeks and get like $1 million. It's a fucking great job.
Look, don't put that on your resume.
I think if there's one person the Dragons really have to consider right now, I'd be pitching everything to Ricky Stewart.
I wouldn't. If I was Ricky, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Do you think he sees next year? Do you think he moves on or leaves?
Ricky's Canberra. Canberra's Ricky. So I think he stay. I think they'll stay. He hasn't. It's not like he's had a star-studded squad.
No, but it's not that. But I think the only thing keeping him there was Jack Whiten.
No, I don't think so. I think like he's got a reason why the team's underperforming. And as I said, if he had a star-studded squad, let's just if he did,
he chose to get rid of Nickel Klostak. Look how good he's doing at the Warriors. It was his choice. He wasn't good enough to play fullback.
If he had a star-studded squad across the whole park, 1-17, and they were playing poorly each and every week, like they are in recent times, well then you go, okay, maybe he's the coach. But he hasn't had his strongest 1-17 for 2 years now. Like he hasn't had that. So you got to get. That's probably his argument for why he should stay. And I think, really. Say they do sack Ricky, right? Who out there, from a Raiders board point of view, would replace? Like, who would they get in to replace Ricky? Like, there's not really.
I don't know who they're going to replace him with, but I don't think Ricky stays. I don't think he stays. I think if I'm the Dragons, I'm throwing the fucking checkbook.
Yeah, if you can throw me $10 million, I wouldn't.
From a Dragons perspective. Would you make a big play at Ricky?
If I'm as a Dragons board, yeah, of course I'm going to make a play at Ricky. I'm going to make a play at anybody that I can get. But whether or not they grab it with two hands and go, yeah, I'll sign with you Dragons, it's a different story. But yeah, of course, make a play at him, but watch it get knocked back.
Well, you know what? Stay tuned. That's my light bulb moment. We'll come back to this. Round 9, 2023. We'll see if I'm correct come the start of next season. But Baxter, we're both 1-12. We both think the Dolphins continue their run.